question. When did everything become so expensive? Life.
I feel like nobody talks about how hard it actually is to survive financially right now.
Random thought, but does anybody else ever wonder if the reason why groceries are so expensive right now is because...
What's up, America? Inflation remains stubbornly high here in the United States.
This chart explains why people are feeling so bad. Almost 50% of consumer spending now comes from the top 10% of earners. This is how you get economic growth while so many people feel left behind. 30 years ago, the bottom 80% accounted for nearly half of consumer spending, while the top decile accounted for 35%. Now, those numbers are swapped. Top 10% is carrying consumer spending, which is carrying GDP along with, AI and data center buildouts. And the bottom 80% is being consumed. This is a great chart to explain why people feel bad. Thank you for watching.
So the United States is officially insolvent. We're bankrupt. This is the news from the Treasury Department. Is it being covered on mainstream news? Why would it be covered by Trump loyalist-owned media? But there you have it. And there's a lot of content creators getting into a lot of good detail about what's going on. But let me tell you, if you think that this is just a Trump and Republican issue, my fellow Democratic voters, you are sadly mistaken, because centrist Democrats that Democratic voters are keeping in, keep electing, are just as much at fault. Listen, it all started with Reaganomics, right? The big lie about trickle-down economics, but then pretty soon the Clintons moved in, and the amount of privatizing of government services, the amount of corporations that were getting bills passed to benefit them because they were buying and paying, both Republicans and centrist Democrats, skyrocketed. And it continued on to this day. You talk about us being in a deficit, this budget filled by your tax dollars and my tax dollars. The Democrats also approved cutting taxes for corporations and for the wealthy, not just the Republicans. And then you had the big privatization, taking government programs run by federal workers and privatizing it, telling us this is how we're going to save money. But it actually costs 20 to 40% more, because now our tax dollars, part of the budget, has to go to the fat cats who are making money, making millions. And privatization is correlated directly with what they donated to Republicans and centrist Democrats. And you better believe they're going to start talking about privatizing Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. Just watch. And then you also have centrist Democrats that are approving 80% of the bills approved in Congress benefit the corporate donor base. It's not just Republicans that got us into bankruptcy. It's not. See, we have a Democratic voter problem, and it's a big one. You've got people in the Democratic Party, voters who are still voting for corporate centrist Democrats. You look at this Illinois race where you had one candidate where AI funneled millions into his campaign. Then you had another candidate where AIPAC funneled millions into her campaign. And then you had another candidate, a progressive, who took $0 from any corporations or special interests. And who did the voters in that district vote for? It wasn't the progressive. Because what we need now is to reel back the privatization, hire federal workers to begin running these programs and take it out of the hands of the for-profit entities. Think the private prison system like GEO Group. How much do you think they're draining our budget? And you need to elect progressives who are ballsy enough to start making the wealthy and corporations pay their fair share of taxes. Look at what Mom Donnie is pulling off. We can have that around the country. My fellow Democrats, we are not electing enough progressives. We're winning some, but we got another 45 states to hold their Democratic primary elections. Are you going to turn out to vote? And are you going to vote to continue this corruption, or are you going to vote for the progressive?
What's up, America? Inflation remains stubbornly high here in the United States as a new report says we're at 4.2% inflation still. So under Joe Biden, inflation went as high as about 9% and then dropped, but inflation was supposed to continue to go down. Donald Trump did that for a little while, but it looks like inflation is being stubbornly stagnant as inflation plateaus at about 4 to 4.5% per month. And what does that mean for you? That means that the prices are going up month after month without any fail whatsoever. Every month you can count on spending more here in America. On top of that, the value of the dollar continues to collapse, meaning it's basically getting more and more difficult every single month in order to make those bills come together and make ends meet. Now, some politicians are trying to focus on affordability. Unfortunately, big corporations and Wall Street don't want that. They don't want prices to go down. They've made that very clear. High prices or nothing at all. And if you try to say maybe prices should come down, now all of a sudden you're treated as a socialist. So it's either pay as much as possible and let the rich get it, or you're a socialist. There is no in between now. Now, obviously, that's the measure of a dumb fuck. You're not either just a capitalist or a socialist, but that's the stupidity we've devolved into here in the United States with the shit for brains everybody seems to be having lately. You like high costs or a side of shit for brains? Which is it? Because you got both.
All right, we just got the report about the construction industry. Today is March 23rd, 2026. Construction has hit a wall and nobody's talking about it. All right, the numbers show a clear shift. We only have January 2026 because they run behind. Spending fell 0.3%. Economists expected an increase. It's a sign that construction momentum is slowing. Right, residential construction is getting hit the worst. Spending in January dropped negative 0.8%. New single family homes dropped a negative 0.2%. Not know we have a housing shortage in the USA. Multifamily dropped a negative 0.7%. And renovations are slowing. Have you stopped doing home renovations and fixing stuff? Likely. Mortgage rates dropped above 6%. Materials are more expensive due to tariffs, and labor shortages are worsening. Private commercial construction is cooling off. Private non-residential went down negative 0.4%. Office construction continues in a multi-year decline. You should see my cat. He's walking in front of everything. High borrowing costs are freezing new development and delaying major projects. Layoffs, the economic crisis. What does this mean for construction workers? Fewer private sector jobs, slower hiring in home building and commercial projects. You did not know there is a slight uptick in building data centers. Again, that doesn't help these people. Construction workers shifting to public infrastructure jobs. Construction is a major economic engine. So this is why I'm reporting on this for the economy. Slowdown affects the GDP growth, housing supply, as I said, consumer spending, as I said, state and local tax revenue. January's decline is a warning sign that higher interest rates are finally hitting the real economy, along with all the other economic information I just gave you. And we are 13 weeks behind on this information. Expect for it to get worse. If you found this informative and you want to know next month's construction information and
U.S. Treasury just announced that the United States is insolvent and the media missed it. That is the headline that Fortune magazine released yesterday. And as an economist, I want to talk about what this exactly means and how did the media miss it, even though Fortune is technically the media. Now, I think it's important to note here that this article is not a news story. It is a commentary written by a professor of applied economics at Johns Hopkins. Those two slightly different things. I also think it's important to note that the title of this article is misleading. The U.S. Treasury did not declare that the U.S. is insolvent. The U.S. Treasury released its financial statements for fiscal year 2025, where it found that the U.S. has about $6 trillion in assets compared to a little under $48 trillion in total liabilities. To make this a little bit simpler, let's say that the United States is a person who owns a $600,000 house, but they also have about $4.8 million in debt from credit cards, from student loans. In normal speak, we would declare that person to be insolvent, right? The value of their assets is less than the value of their debt. But did the US Treasury declare that the US government is insolvent and the media totally missed it? I think it's important to note here that the US Treasury is not the one that declared that the government is insolvent. It's the authors of the article that come to this conclusion based on the Treasury's data. And if we're being totally honest, by that definition, the US has been insolvent since 1974, right? If we're deciding the definition of insolvency is that the long-term liabilities can't be covered by its assets, we've already been here. That's why the media is not reporting on this, because it's been true for the last 50 years. What's more is that economists tend not to typically think of governments of countries as insolvent because, unlike with individuals or companies, governments can do things to address a debt asset imbalance. If a person declares insolvency, right, their only real option is to have their items repossessed or for them to declare bankruptcy. But the US government and other governments have other options about how to resolve their debt. Unfortunately for individuals, all of these things are incredibly unpopular to various subgroups of the population. So one option would be to reduce government spending on various government programs and projects that we put forward money. So for example, cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare and Medicaid, cutting infrastructure projects, cutting the spending on defense for a certain global conflict that we are dealing with. However, people tend to not like when government programs that they directly benefit from and that they enjoy, those things are taken away from them. Also important to note that spending on some of these government programs like SNAP or NIH research generate economic activity beyond the returns of their initial costs. So SNAP, for example, for every dollar spent on SNAP, we generate about $1.50 to $1.80 of economic activity. So if we were to reduce government spending on those particular programs, we would be harming ourselves economically down the line. The second thing the US government can do that people or companies can't do is that they can print more money. If you have more money, you are able to shell out more cash to pay off your debt. The problem with that is similar to what we see in Weimar Germany in the 1920s, where the more cash you print out, the higher inflation becomes, which therefore sparks inflation. And as we're seeing, we're dealing with some of the ramifications of inflation currently. It's not a fun position to be in. And the third thing that the US government can do that individuals and companies can't do is that they can increase revenue by increasing taxes on its citizens. Now, that seems to be pretty unpopular with certain segments of the population and the current administration, which last year in the One Big Beautiful Bill passed a series of tax cuts around $1 trillion to both corporations as well as the 1% of the income bracket. So is the US government insolvent, and how much of a problem is it? Again, the US government, by their definition in the article, has been insolvent for about 50 years or so. And while a lot of economists agree that there could be some potential long-term implications of having your assets lower than your liabilities, there doesn't seem to be a lot of effort or interest from either side to addressing the potential longer-term implications, given the fact that as long as we have countries who are interested in buying our debt, it's not a short-term problem. Although given the current viewpoint of the United States by its neighbors and allies right now, it's a little bit unclear whether or not US debt as an investment is an interesting proposition. And that's all I got for now. If you have any questions.
Yikes. Tourism in the United States of America decreased 62% in 2025. And I'm going to tell you what that means for the economy and how much it has decreased in 2026. Let's get into it. First of all, tourism stimulates about $3 trillion in economic activity in the United States every single year. Tourism is critical to the United States of America. It's more critical to states that have a big dependence on tourism, such as Las Vegas. That is their #1 industry. So far in January 2026, we have a sharp 4.2% decline in tourism. March data is not released as of yet, but just expect with the government shutdown, the TSA disaster, expect to drop dramatically. As I said, tourism stimulates $3 trillion of economic activity every year. Did you know that our largest visitor internationally is Canada? Yeah, 20% of our international tourism comes from Canada. And did you know they're boycotting us? So they spend heavily in border states such as Florida, Arizona, Nevada, California, and Hawaii. They travel frequently. They make multiple visits per year. They support thousands of U.S. jobs in hospitality, retail, restaurants, and transportation. All right, now let's talk about the decline in tourism, which in 2025 and 2026. Quote, the collapse began in 2025. 4.2 million fewer Canadian visitors in 2025. That is a 20.9% drop from 2024. This will cost us billions and we will lose thousands of jobs. They're not coming here because of the trade war, Trump saying he wants to make them the first 51st state, immigration crackdown, safety concerns, and their own moral beliefs. 59% of Canadians said that U.S. policies made them less likely to visit, and it peaked in the middle of 2025 to 63%. 2026, the decline gets even worse. In February, there was a 14.5% drop compared to 2024. Air travel is down a negative 12.9%. Air travel 17.6% negative, auto travel 12.9% negative. So 2026 is worse. It's going to get worse, which means 2027, 2028, we are going to lose billions and it is going to hurt our jobs, and especially in those states that I mentioned. If you found this informative, Jack in the Box is closing 100 locations. Domino's Pizza is closing 205 locations. Pizza Hut is closing 250 locations. Wendy's is closing 350 locations. Smoky Bones is closing 120 locations. Popeye's Chicken is closing 20 locations. Red Robin's is closing 27 locations. Papa John's is closing 200 locations. Denny's is closing 150 locations. Noodles & Company are closing 35 locations. Joe's Crab Shack is closing 14 locations. Bahama Breeze is closing 14 locations. As of February 2026, business bankruptcies in the USA have reached approximately 25,490. That's business bankruptcies. Those are filing Chapter 11 bankruptcies. Not all locations that close will file bankruptcies. That is about a 3.5% increase so far and projected for 2026. If you did not know, small business makes up 98% of businesses in the USA. It is not large businesses. This is another troubling red flag for the US economy that we are actually collapsing every single day. All of this was in play and happening before the attack on Iran. Prepare for something, a global economic crisis that we have not seen in our lifetime. If you found this sad but informative, please follow. In case you're wondering, none of this is normal. We lost $1 trillion yesterday in the stock market. 1 trillion. The NASDAQ is in correction. Yeah. What that means for your retirement accounts, if you're like me, they're plummeting. 25% long-term unemployment. That means people who have lost their jobs have been unemployed for 27 weeks or longer. 1 out of 4 people that you know that's laid off, 1 out of 4 has been laid off for 27 weeks or longer. I've seen people comment they've been laid off for 6 months, 8 months, a year. Why can't they get a job? Because last year we had only 181,000 total jobs created in the entire United States of America. This year, 2026, we've also lost jobs, negative 92,000 jobs just in February alone. Manufacturing is the biggest job loss. Yeah, they are in big trouble. These are huge recession indicators that we're heading or in a recession or worse, a depression. And it was already bad before we attacked Iran. And speaking of not normal, last year the government claimed we were broke. We didn't have money for Medicare, for kids' lunches, for cancer research, for airline safety. Yeah, and then they went and spent $900 billion on the military and $175 billion on deporting brown people. We've already seen the waste that got Kristi Noem fired. Now we've gone to war with Iran with no hope or no end in sight. That's $2 billion a day. So we're at about 30 to 35 billion. The president wants another 200 billion more. You know what he said? He said, it would be nice. You know what would be nice? It would be nice if that affordable tax credit wasn't canceled for 28 million Americans. It would be nice if we didn't have 800,000 homeless people. None of this is normal. If this resonated with you or if I missed something, please like, comment, follow, and share.
We don't have any way to pass those additional costs on. And we're already looking at very small profits per acre on crops.
I've never seen prices jump to levels like they are now as fast as they've jumped.
Such a random thought, but does anybody else ever wonder if the reason why groceries are so expensive right now is because, like, it's actually a move to try to keep us, like, separated from each other? I had this, like, thought that passed through my mind just now, and I was like, oh, like, after church, like, it'd be great to have all these people come over. And I was like, oh, you know, if somebody's like, oh, well, I want to get something to eat, it's like, oh, we'll just go to the grocery store and throw some stuff on the grill. And I had this flash across my mind of, like, oh my gosh, it would probably cost, like, however many $100s to be able to feed even, like, a relatively small group of people, if it's, like, still a group, right? And in my head, I was like, that's it. I was like, maybe part of this whole deal, I'm in my conspiracy theorist bag, obviously, but maybe part of this whole deal is that they know the value of community, right? And having a village and doing life together. And if they can find different ways to keep us away from each other, they're able to have more control of us emotionally, mentally, whatever. I don't know.
Young adults are getting smoked in every direction financially right now. Rent is up 30% in recent years. Groceries up over 20%. Yet incomes haven't grown nearly as fast. How are people supposed to get ahead? Cost of living is out of control.
Just got gas and it's $25 more than usual. Thought today was going to be a good day. Got gas this morning. No one talked to me. I'm not in a good mood anymore. $25 more. And I know it's even more in some other states. What is happening? Your girl's pissed. I was going to go to that acai bowl this morning for about $15. I was like, you know what? Today's a good day. I'm going to go spend that. $15 went to gas. I'm not going to go anymore.
Why does it seem like everything is at least $100 anymore? Like, I swear, if I actually am going inside of a store to purchase something, I cannot walk out for less than $100. I mean, it's in very few cases that I can. But grocery shopping, $100. I get 3 shirts at Target, $100. I can barely even fill up my gas tank for less than $100. And there was a point in my childhood where I felt like if I had $100, I was rich. Like, even in my teens, I felt like $100 was the pinnacle of wealth, almost. Now, it can't even cover, like, my utilities. Crazy to me. Crazy. The world is very expensive these days.
I honestly feel like all of us can collectively agree at this point that existing in America is absolutely unaffordable. From the rent prices to the food we eat to our utility bills, now gas is starting to go up. Soon, we're not going to be able to afford to just put gas in our fucking cars. We should collectively be infuriated, pissed off, because what are we working for anymore? Every week that we continue to just keep this hamster wheel going and we keep going to our normal 9-to-5s, it literally feels like we're working for less and less money. So it's like every single week we're getting less and less in fucking return. We're working non-fucking stop, day in and day out, and it's literally not getting us anywhere. It's like, if you really think about it, I genuinely feel like the end goal is we're all going to end up passing away from overexhaustion, from malnutrition, from all of the poison and the chemicals and shit that they're putting into our food. Like, it almost kind of feels like it makes a lot more sense to not work at all anymore. Because what are we working for? Because it almost just feels like whether you bust your ass or sit in your car like I'm fucking doing, it literally feels like you're going to be screwed either way.
I feel like nobody talks about how hard it actually is to survive financially right now. Like, not even thrive, just survive. Because if you're in your 20s right now, the math honestly doesn't make sense. Rent is insane, groceries are insane, student loans are sitting there waiting for you, and everyone online is like, just budget better. Which, yeah, budgeting helps, but it's not like people are out here buying yachts. Most of us are just paying for normal life and hoping there's something left over. That's why I started tracking my money way more closely. Not because I suddenly became some financial expert, I just wanted to understand where everything was going. I use this app called Mind because it gives you weekly recap of what you spent, what you earned, and what you actually saved, which at least makes the whole situation a little less confusing. The system is fucking rigged, but there's nothing we can do about it, so not knowing what's happening with your money definitely doesn't help either.
Why is everything just so expensive right now? I just got back from the grocery store right now and spent about $200 on things that will maybe last me a week. From groceries to gas to rent, everything I do, I just feel like I'm spending so much money right now. And I really don't think it's just me. I've been hearing very similar things from a lot of my friends as of recent, and I'm sure a lot of you guys feel similar ways. There's something happening to the US dollar right now that is quietly making all of us poorer and poorer. And unfortunately, it seems to only be getting worse. Let me show you. This is the US dollar. See that trend? Way down. Your money is losing value in real time. That's why your dollar just buys less every single day this continues.
Of the dollar, do you think it's declined too much? No, I think it's great. I mean, the value of the dollar, look at the business we're doing. You know, it's very interesting. If you look at China and Japan, I used to fight like hell with them because they always wanted to devalue their yen. You know that? The yen and the yuan. And they'd always want to devalue it. They devalue. And I said, not fair that you devalue because it's hard to compete when they devalue.
Yes, that was the president, and as you can see, he does not really seem to be in a hurry to fix it. It actually looks like he wants it. A weaker dollar makes American exports cheaper to the rest of the world. As the president explained, China has been doing this for years now, and the president almost seems jealous of it. So if the dollar continues to keep losing value, meaning that your cash saved continues to be losing value, what are you supposed to do? There's one thing the wealthiest people in the world have always done to protect themselves. They don't hold cash. They hold assets, stocks, real estate, commodities, things that tend to go up in value whenever the dollar begins to drop. That's why wealthy people always seem to get richer in these sort of situations, while the people holding cash, the people on the sidelines, get left behind. It has never been more important than it is now to invest and own assets. The dollar is not going to save you, but assets will.
Now it's $8.59, but look like what it used to be. It was $7.69, but wait. Before that, $3.79.
$27 for toilet paper. Think about that.
Look, I know I'm a frugal fuck, but when the fuck did cereal start costing $9 motherfucking dollars?
Look. $10. $10 for a 12-pack of soda. That's all the brand.
$9.29 for 6 candy bars? Are you out of your mind?
Oscar Mayer is $8.29 for beef fucking bologna.
Man, ain't no fucking way for a 50-cent honey bun. They want $2.29 for
$11.49.
$48.47 at Sam's Club for 4 steaks.
But I mean, $31.99 for coffee? I'm gonna switch to tea.
I got a question. When did everything become so expensive? Life. I'm broke. I don't even feel like going outside anymore. Feels like the price of going outside is an expense. I'm supposed to be the rich one in my family. I got siblings, nieces, nephews, everybody asking for game systems and all type of stuff. And some dude named Tyrese keeps spiking up the prices for everything. Who is Tyrese? Oh, tariff. Oh, Trump tariff? Oh, okay, Trump tariff. Okay. So not Tyrese. Trump's tariffs! Even the prices for electronics. The Sony PS5 is gonna cost as much as $50 more, at least, in the US due to higher import tariffs. Tariffs on Japan. And electricity bills shot up 30% since 2020. Grocery store prices. Why am I spending a band in the grocery store? Higher than ever. How am I supposed to do all of that and expect to live a day to day? I should have put a tariff on Santa for milk and cookies this year. Tariff. Man, life is about spending time with your family, not spending money, bro. Everybody be grateful for what you have and give your loved ones a break when it comes to gifts. It's hard out here for everybody.
When it's finally your turn to be an adult and suddenly the economy got worse and the price of everything went up. I waited my whole childhood for this. I was promised freedom, a decent salary, maybe a starter home, not $7 grapes and rent that costs more than a down payment for a 6-bedroom house in 1978. All right, there's people out here still living among us who bought a house for $80,000 and complained about it. I just went to a deli and they're selling breakfast sandwiches for $19. And the expectation that you can thank the cashier like they're handing you a gift from God, right? You know how humbling it is to check your bank account and hope that it's in triple digits? I used to dream of being an adult. Now I dream of, marrying a wealthy woman who wants to do me this favor. They sold us on work hard, go to school, save money, invest. Yeah, Harry, that's great, but they just made me pay $4 for a bottle of water. So all I can invest in right now is maybe staying hydrated. That's it. All right, adulthood was supposed to be brunches and new furniture. Instead, it turned out to be existential dread with a side of inflation.
This economy is so bad. $33 for toilet paper? We can't even afford to shit.
Like, are we dead serious right now? Like, are we dead ass? Is this real life?
Look at that. You gotta be fucking kidding us, Ruffles.
A regular Coke, 3 for $20.97. Like, actual soda, $21.
What the fuck? Used to get a whole cup.
$13.99? $14? For what, a gallon of orange juice? Y'all must be out of y'all.
For 2 pounds of lunch meat, $23. How the hell we supposed to feed our kids on this crap?
Truly, look at this. Look how small this pack is. Seriously? That fits like in my palm. Crazy.
The grocery stores are like, it look like it haven't even been touched.
Hey MAGA, remember how you were so excited to vote for Donald Trump because he said he was going to end all wars and not start any wars and he was going to bring down your prices and make everything more affordable? Then less than a week into office, he completely took back that second part, saying, "Oh, I'm not going to bring down prices, that's too hard." But of course he took back that whole peace thing too because he was the first president to ever bomb 7 countries in one single year. But now, just like every other Republican in the last 40 years, he's gotten us into another forever war in the Middle East, which he said there will be no deal with Iran, just unconditional surrender. Now, some of you seem to have caught on as to what this is doing to your gas prices that he also said he would bring down. Gas prices around the country have gone up about 40 to 50 cents in just the last week. And that's because the day after he and Netanyahu started bombing Iran, experts said that the cost of a barrel of oil could go up to $100. As of today, a week after they started bombing, you know what it is? $93. And it's just going to keep going up. And you guys can't even really deny this anymore because I've lost track of the number of videos I've seen in just the last 2 days of Trump supporters throwing away their red hats, throwing away their Trump flags, and ripping their Trump bumper stickers off their truck. And they're doing it over gas prices. So apparently for 10 years, it wasn't the lies that bothered you, it wasn't the misogyny, the racism, or even the pedophilia. It was gas prices that finally broke you out of the cult. But I don't know if you realize just how bad this is. Because while your dear leader, your Jesus figure, is telling you that affordability is a joke and everybody across the country is rich now, not only were our prices going up before this because of his shitty tariffs, but because the cost of gas is going up, the cost of everything is going to go up due to increased transportation prices. Which means that every single thing you buy, including those eggs that you really wanted to be cheaper, are going to be astronomically insane. So how does it feel to vote 3 times for a man who lied to your face about absolutely everything? He didn't make life more affordable for you. He didn't make your insurance or your prescription drugs more affordable for you. He didn't make your house more affordable. He didn't bring down your grocery prices or your gas prices. He's actively hiding the Epstein files. And he's just driving all of you into the poorhouse as he continues to make you all look like traitors to your